This is CBC Vancouver News.
I don't feel like a normal woman anymore. Yeah, I had to throw away all my dresses.
A mistaken cancer diagnosis cost her her breast. Now a Vancouver woman is asking for justice.
Losing this house is losing a big part of our family history. As Tanaka people, we have lived on these lands since the time immemorial.
Several First Nations families will have to rebuild after a wildfire near Cranbrook wipes out homes.
They should have been informing people who are coming and who doesn't have the reservation.
And ferry wait fiasco.
This whole line hasn't moved yet.
BC Ferry's website warned of massive delays, but it says it wasn't accurate. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Vancouver firefighters say they've managed to put out a big blaze that broke out near False Creek earlier tonight. The chief says a second alarm fire hit a large industrial building on West 1st and Cook Street, just east of the Cambie Street Bridge. Crews on scene say heavy smoke and flames were pouring from the warehouse, but they've managed to put it out now. There are no reports of injuries, and they are checking for hotspots. It's not yet clear what sparked the fire. The building appears to be empty. It has a sign reading Vancouver Mill Machinery Limited on it. A North Vancouver woman is demanding justice after a mistaken cancer diagnosis. She ended up losing a breast. A jury concluded the doctor who made that diagnosis was negligent. But as Zara Premji shows us, the fight is far from over.
My story started 7 years ago.
Well-known dog groomer, wife and mother Elena Ivanova says time stood still when she was diagnosed with the rare form of aggressive breast cancer in 2016.
I was very scared, and I had this fear of death.
Court documents claim her surgeon said the only option was a full mastectomy right away. She was still recovering, then mentally preparing for radiation and chemotherapy when her oncologist dropped another bombshell.
Because I was told I don't have cancer and I have never did cancer. And the diagnosis was incorrect.
Her breast removed unnecessarily.
If you don't have it, how you can be told you do have cancer, yeah?
Ivanova says she still lives with pain and weakness.
There was a verdict in Elena's favor at the end of a 3-week jury trial.
A BC Supreme Court civil jury awarded her $400,000 in damages from Dr. Robert Wolber, the pathologist who was found to have wrongfully diagnosed her with cancer. But so far, Ivanova has only seen a fraction of that. Dr. Wolber is appealing the jury's verdict. He has not responded to requests from CBC News for comment. But in response to Ivanova's lawsuit, he argues everything he did was appropriate and up to standards.
It's challenging to pursue an action where the defense is so well funded.
Ivanova says on top of hefty bills for court proceedings, along with pain and suffering, the mastectomy has done long-lasting damage to her physical and mental health.
I don't feel like a normal woman anymore. Yeah, I had to throw away all my dresses, what I really love to wear.
But Ivanova hopes her story can help others.
And ask for second opinion, for third opinion, and ask doctors to explain everything, because it's their job.
Now she'll have to wait at least another year before finding out a potential verdict of the appeal. Zara Premji, CBC News, Burnaby.
Reportedly facing up to a 12-hour wait this morning. But Ferries says their website was not correct. The crunch comes as a big ship is in dry dock getting a leak repaired. Around 6 this morning, BC Ferries website indicated no room for vehicles without reservations from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., an 8-sailing wait. As of 9 a.m., the website said the earliest walk-on reservation available was at 1 p.m. The backups left many passengers with and without reservations frustrated as lineups built.
We were planning to go on 8 a.m., then we were okay with leaving at 9, but now we have to leave probably at 1, 2 p.m.?
This whole line hasn't moved yet.
They should have been informing people who are coming and doesn't have the reservation.
They have told us we should wait hours with 3 children. I have 2 babies backside and we are waiting 2 hours here now.
We're a little bit frustrated because we had a voucher, but now, it is what it is. I'm going to read my book, I'm going to drink a coffee, and just wait.
Ferries later insisted there was not such a wait as their website showed. It says the system automatically assumes all passengers with reservations will show up, but that did not happen this morning.
What happened this morning at Tsawwassen was that about 10 to 20% of our customers, they didn't show up for their reservations. So tower controllers are able to recognize that, update the space available within current conditions based on customer no-shows, and then we turn it over to our crews to load the vessels to their maximum capacity. So what that meant is actually what happened this morning at Tsawwassen was that most customers were on a ferry by 11 a.m. with unreserved customers experiencing 1 to 2 sailing waits.
Johnston says they manually overrode the current conditions on their website to show the most up-to-date information they could. They sympathize with people who had to wait. Ferry says Twitter is a good place to check up-to-date conditions, but understands not everyone is on that app. Officials say they hope to get the Coastal Celebration back in service by the end of the week. With it out, they are down 8 sailings and don't have another ferry to replace it. The St. Mary's River fire in BC's southeast region has grown to more than 4,000 hectares, leaving a trail of devastation. Hundreds of people remain on evacuation alert. Dozens still cannot return home. The CBC's Corey Bullock is speaking with one family who will have to start over from scratch.
A multi-generational home burnt to the ground.
My auntie's house was a foundation for not only her immediate family, but for our extended family.
Blaine Burgoyne lived in the house too. It's one of 7 in the First Nations community of Akum, destroyed by wildfire.
Losing this house is losing a big part of our family history. As Tanaka people, we have lived on these lands since the time immemorial.
The St. Mary's River fire first broke out in the Akum community on July 17th. Hundreds in the region are still on evacuation alert. Dozens were forced to leave.
We know there are 7 families who lost their homes and another number of about 36 that remain on evacuation order within the community. That's been the only change in this area to evacuation orders or alerts.
Crews are still working to uncover the full extent of the damage, and rebuilding will take a long time.
The community is continuing to rally and focus and support one another, so we're doing our best to support them.
It just kind of shows you community and what community really stands for. And I think with this disaster, it really brought everybody together a lot more.
Akum is asking that community donations go through their administration, while families like Burgoyne's have set up their own fundraisers. In the meantime,
I think what people can do for our community is just keep us in their thoughts.
The BC Wildfire Service says control lines around the St. Mary's River fire are holding steady. While the community grapples with so much loss, the hope is the weather cooperates and the flames dwindle quickly. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Hundreds of people living in and around Invermere are watching a new wildfire closely as it burns just on the edge of town. As Rihanna Schmunk shows us, the constant sight and smell of wildfire smoke is making them uneasy.
How do you feel about the fire?
Maya Richardson sums it up.
Yeah, it's a little scary. You come to visit Grandma in Parson, BC, and the fire is a little bit close, isn't it?
Firefighting planes were going back and forth above Invermere today. The Horse Thief Creek fire is burning just 10 kilometers away, just on the other side of the hill. The fire exploded in size after starting Monday afternoon.
It feels comforting that we've got some water bombers overhead that are here now. There's been a lot of heavy equipment moved into place. Wildfire services are on it and working. This close and this visible, it's been years. It's been years, probably 15 years ago at least. This is pretty close for comfort.
More than 1,000 properties in and around the community are on evacuation alert because of the fire, including Panorama Mountain Resort. 24 properties and recreation spots are also under evacuation order. The smoke has been visible all day today on the hill behind me just outside of town here, despite cooler temperatures and even a little bit of rain this afternoon. The BC Wildfire Service says they are on the lookout tonight for thunderstorms that could bring winds of up to 65 kilometers an hour. The service also says it's been difficult to get an idea of just exactly how big this fire is because of the tricky terrain and the smoke making it difficult to fly, but it is still considered to be out of control. No matter how big the fire is, it is still worrisome for those in town.
Lots of people working hard to contain the fires that are quite close. We have a bug-out bag. We have a bag ready to go just in case.
Rihanna Schmunk, CBC News, Invermere.
An aggressive wildfire, meanwhile, is still burning near Kamloops despite some much-needed rain. BC Wildfire Service says the Rossmore Lake blaze, which is burning at just over 26 square kilometers, does not threaten the city right now. It was sparked 5 days ago and has forced the evacuation of 344 properties in the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. The Wildfire Service says drought conditions have made it harder to contain fires at first, meaning small fires are able to grow quickly.
We do expect things to warm up again in the coming days. We're certainly in conditions that are very, very challenging for our crews, and we know that the fire behavior will increase once this cooler weather passes through in the next few days.
Construction along the nearby Trans Mountain pipeline expansion has been paused. TMX contractors have been sharing equipment with wildfire crews. More than 1.5 million hectares have burnt across BC so far this season. That is the most in modern recorded history. The province is creating a new support to help farmers struggling with a shortage of hay, of food for their animals, including hay. It's called Access to Feed. It aims to match farmers and ranchers with global suppliers who have feed and hay to sell. The BC Cattlemen's Association is a partner. Their general manager says it's been a challenging year for farmers.
Typically, we have a rainy season in the fall that would help to build that soil moisture, which we didn't get. And on the other end of winter, we went from winter almost immediately to summer.
Boone says farmers have about a third of their normal stock of feed. That means many will be forced to sell some of their herd. He hopes the new program will provide some more options. Highway 4 on Vancouver Island is again temporarily closed tonight, this time at Cameron Lake Bluff due to high winds and increased risk of rock falls. Drive BC says it will stay closed overnight because of an unexpected issue on site. The Transportation Ministry says a detour route is still open, but it recommends travelers check Drive BC for updates. 2 men are missing in the North Okanagan after they disappeared while boating in 2 separate instances on lakes around Vernon. As Brady Strachan tells us, the RCMP and search and rescue teams will keep looking in the morning.
Here on the shore of Okanagan Lake in the Ellison Park area, the water is fairly calm. But last night it was a different story when a storm hit the valley and strong winds whipped up waves on the water's surface. Now, the RCMP say 2 boaters are missing. One of them was in a commercial shrimp harvesting boat on Okanagan Lake, a nighttime activity. That boat took on water and sank.
When the vessel tried to change course, it apparently took on water and capsized. The man inside that boat is unaccounted for. There was a worker on the smaller vessel being towed behind who witnessed it, and that person made it safely to shore.
Today, part of the vessel is visible a few hundred meters from shore, and that is the area where an RCMP boat has been focusing the search for the missing 50-year-old man. And on nearby Kalamalka Lake, about 20 kilometers from here, there's a search for another missing boater. The RCMP say a 26-year-old Alberta man tried to cross part of the lake during the storm and hasn't been seen since. His friends called the RCMP, and his kayak was located later, but the man remains missing. Police say he wasn't wearing a life jacket.
Kalamalka, Okanagan are 2 pretty big lakes, and I think a lot of times people underestimate just the effect that storms can have on them. You know, the waves can get to be quite large. With wind, you can be disoriented. It's a long way to land, so we always want people to be prepared for that.
A search and rescue boat is leading the search for the missing man. The RCMP say they're still treating these 2 cases as missing persons investigations. However, an RCMP dive team has been called in and should hit the water in the coming days. Brady Strachan, CBC News in the North Okanagan.
A Vancouver police officer who hit and injured a pedestrian last fall could be criminally charged. After looking into the crash, the Independent Investigations Office has sent a report to Crown Counsel to consider charges. It happened in September on East Hastings near Maine and Columbia. It was captured on video, some of which was shared on social media. The police watchdog writes that reasonable grounds exist to believe one officer may have committed driving offenses. The matter is now in the hands of the Crown.
At the end of the day, there will just be 16 lakes left in this competition. It's still anyone's guess as to which will be crowned the best.
Coming up, we take another look at more beautiful lakes in our search for BC's best lake with the quiz and master himself, Justin McElroy. Stay with us. Hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. There are mounting concerns over the health of freshwater fish habitats given BC's drought conditions. Many streams and rivers are experiencing record low flows for this time of year and are expected to drop even more as the summer grinds on. As John Hernandez shows us, fishermen say they're worried about the effects on local stocks.
It's a shallow wade into this usually busy fishing hole at Chilliwack River, and there hasn't been much luck here either.
The flow is really diminished compared to what we had typically last year or in a typical year.
Lifelong fisherman Travis Heathman says these rock islands are usually underwater this time of year, and the fish are hard to come by.
They don't have a lot of protection because there's not a lot of deep water, so they're getting concentrated in small areas.
Small areas like this deep pocket just up the river where many anglers have descended to. But even here, most lines are coming up empty.
It's pretty concerning. I haven't seen as many fish come through as I'd like to see. And I feel like they don't have the confidence to want to push up from the mouth of the river, right? Because it's too low.
The BC River Forecast Center says it's seen record low flows in rivers across the Lower Mainland Basin. It's currently at drought level 4, meaning adverse effects to ecosystems are likely. But there's even bigger concerns on the horizon, with flows expected to drop even further through the summer before chum, coho, and pink salmon attempt to pass through in the fall.
We're going to not have a lot of water here, and the water temperatures are going to be a lot warmer than they are right now, which doesn't do the salmon very much good. So a lot of these fish may die before they get a chance to spawn, which would be a real shame.
And it's just another cut of the 1,000 cuts that southern BC salmon have had to endure.
This salmon researcher says it's too early to tell what the impact will be, but points to the tens of thousands of salmon found dead during a drought near Bella Bella last year as a warning sign.
If we know that water is bound for a stream or groundwater that's going to affect the salmon stream, we should be doing everything we can to protect that.
The province says it's considering water use restrictions to conserve fish habitat if needed, but the decisions will be made regionally. Meanwhile, those on the riverbanks simply pray for rain. John Hernandez, CBC News, Chilliwack.
We're now to the second round of voting in our search for BC's best lake. You still have a bit of time to get your favorites in on the southwest of the province and in the interior. The CBC's Justin McElroy tells us more.
There are thousands and thousands of lakes in this province, but only 32 are left in the search for BC's best lake, where we've gotten thousands and thousands of votes. And the most serene of the 32 left is probably the one I'm standing in front of, Cameron. Now, ordinarily, there would be plenty of boats on the water at this time of the year on this beautiful lake next to Port Alberni, but for one reason, it's not right now. That's a wildfire that happened a few weeks ago up on those bluffs. Now you can see there's no flames anymore, but there was a threat in terms of landslides that could happen as a result. So the road is only open for 2 hours a day to single alternating traffic, meaning that right now this little slice of heaven is completely serene. But in terms of the voting, it is losing at the moment to Comox Lake, just a few hours north. A sign anything can happen in this competition. 2 other matchups are neck and neck at this point, where still anything can happen, both on the mainland. One close to Vancouver, where Cultus Lake, the #1 seed in the Southwest, is currently losing ever so narrowly to Bunsen Lake, which has gotten the support of BC Hydro, of all organizations. Whereas in the Kootenays, Christina Lake is famed for its water, but it too is very close right now with Kootenay Lake, maybe a sign of name recognition for the rest of the province. At the end of the day, there will just be 16 lakes left in this competition. It's still anyone's guess as to which will be crowned the best. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Cameron Lake.
And callers to BC Today on CBC Radio 1 told host Michelle Elliott which lake they're backing.
My fellow British Columbians, I think it would be a travesty if the winner of this contest were not Canada's warmest freshwater lake in Canada's only desert, and that's the Soyuz Lake.
You can watch that whole chat from BC Today on CBC Gem and on our website and on our CBC Vancouver YouTube page. If you'd like to vote for any of the contenders, visit cbc.ca/bestlakebc. There's a live shot of Canby Street and BC Place. Few flickering emergency lights from that fire, which has now been knocked down. Ethan Williams will have your full forecast right after this.
The era began with Bill Dobson as a boy. Bill Dobson's student came next, but what he lived for was Bill Dobson, radio announcer at Chubb in Nanaimo. It was 22 years ago that the intrepid Dobson made his entrance to the CBC newsroom, and frankly, things have never been the same. Bill began by covering the events of the day, as most of us do, in fairly routine fashion. When teenagers rioted in North Vancouver on Halloween night, 1966, Dobson was there.
Yesterday afternoon, I bought several pumpkin candles here. Last night, it was the scene of mob violence. Let's take a look at the scene as it was last night. The first call for fire hoses was turned down because the fire department had orders to stand by for legitimate calls and not to risk equipment in a riot. As the battle reached its peak, the mob turned to rock showing and windows began to go. With each crash of plate glass, there was a cheer from the mob. Every time a youngster was caught, a loud boo.
Dobson knew BC and the people who people listened to, like NW's master of the owl prowl, Jack Cullen. But on occasion, he could be persuaded to talk to outsiders, especially if he thought there was something to learn. Unfortunately, the tapes of this conversation have been erased, but it's equally clear that our man Dobson was a good listener.
No, my friend, I'm talking about the bottom line. So remember, my friends, today is the day of our destruction.
Dobby became our man to put things in perspective when the world seemed to be falling apart.
This here's Marlborough country. Ugh.
Oh, that's milk. This is my head talking. Is the rest of my body back down there? Oh, thank goodness. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, be right off the runway in a minute.
I guess the thing we love most about Bill is that while he's always taken his work seriously and loves it with a passion, he never takes himself seriously.
Bill Dobson, CBC News on Grouse Mountain.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back. Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
We awarded British Columbia's Best Small Town. This summer, we're making a splash. It's the search for BC's Best Lake. Vote at cbc.ca/bestlakebc. And on August 6th, join the CBC Vancouver team at the 45th Annual Vancouver Pride Parade. The fun continues on at the Pride Festival. Make sure you drop by the CBC Vancouver tent and win some CBC swag.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Time for your BC-wide weather picture. Darius is taking the night off, so Ethan Williams has our forecast tonight. Ethan?
Well, some much-needed rain coming to coastal sections of the province, including at YVR, where we picked up close to 19 millimeters. That is the first time we've had measurable rainfall at the airport since June 19th. And in fact, this is pretty much all the rain that we got in the month of June. Usually in Vancouver, we see about 54 millimeters in the month of June. West Vancouver picking up a little bit more rain over these past 24 to 36 hours. Squamish close to 20, and out on the island some amounts as well, near 13 millimeters in Victoria, and off the west coast of the island a lot of rain near Effingham, where we picked up about 62 millimeters. Now I think rain going to come to an end tonight, especially in coastal sections. We'll start to see that migrate a bit eastward, but through the Peace region and central portions of the interior, we're going to continue to see that rainfall overnight tonight. Tomorrow we're looking for mostly just pop-up showers and thunderstorms along the coast and the island, and that rain still continuing in northeastern sections of the province. For the southeast, where we are really looking at dry conditions in the Okanagan and the Kootenays, not much rainfall coming, and in fact it's mostly just going to be pop-up showers and thunderstorms that we're looking for. For the northeast section of the province, where the most rain is going to be falling, probably at 15 millimeters is where we'll be topping out. For Metro Vancouver, this is all dependent on thunderstorms that pop up, but for the rest of us, again, very, very dry, only about a millimeter or two, and that'll be coming possibly in the form of some thunderstorms. We'll have to look out for lightning risk, especially where we are seeing those fires, mid to upper 20s. Seasonal for the coast and for the island, around 20 degrees tomorrow. And then as you head further north, a little bit cooler. We're looking for temperatures about 15 to 20 degrees. For Metro Vancouver, we're looking for a pretty seasonal day ourselves tomorrow, around 20 degrees, chance of showers and thunderstorms come the afternoon. Things clearing out as we head into the weekend and getting a warm up as well. Heading into Sunday, maybe a chance of showers as well. And then another warm up heading into the beginning of next week, where humidex levels could make it feel close to 30 degrees in Metro Vancouver.
All right. Thanks very much, Ethan. And that is your late news for Tuesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news at any hour, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Good night.